call the meeting to order. We have with us tonight, from my left to right, Bill Bolton, Ray LeMay, Steve Nager, and to my right, Sherry Burdick and Mark Phillips. We have, and therefore, one member who is not able to join us tonight. But with that, we have a quorum, and we get to do business. We missed the meeting last month. I think that was the last hurrah of our snow, at least that feels to be the case. Still here in April, things can happen. And we have some minutes from February, so we missed the March meeting. We have some minutes from February to look at, but with a guest in the audience, unless any of the conservation members feel otherwise, I'd like to ask our guest up to the podium. And Nick, introduce yourself, and we will try to address your concerns.
Yes, my name's Nick. I've been a resident of Weare for about 3 years now. Live over on Pine Hill, and my main concern is that about 4 feet off my property line, I have a rotted poplar tree about 40 feet up, adjacent to my bedroom. So I feel like that's in danger of falling over and could be hitting my bedroom portion of my house. Didn't know how I can go about either one, removing myself, to subbing it out to somebody, or if you folks have a different outlook on that, on how it can be addressed, because it definitely needs to be in my eyes. I also took some photos of said tree and how close it is to the the yellow triangle on the tree next to it, just to show you the condition of it. So.
Is that something that you have copies of, or do you
I have it on my telephone. I emailed Steve a few photos.
Okay.
Did you, yeah, were you going to
I'm sorry, what's the address on Pine Hill?
222.
Okay.
I don't know if this will go through to,
So just for general setting, or with it abutting conservation property, are you in one of the last 3 or 4 houses on Pine Hill Road?
There's 4 houses above me on that right-hand side.
Okay.
I'm right before the hook,
Okay,
going up the hill.
so you're before Frontes Drive?
On Pine Hill?
Yeah, is there a long driveway off to the right that goes?
Oh yeah, 2 houses up,
That's-
or next house up. I'm sorry. Yeah, all the way up.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
all right,
Yep.
so now I got
Yeah,
what
right
you're
before
talking
that.
about.
I just sounds everybody, but it,
Okay.
I mean, it's a rotted out tree next to the line. My only question was,
Okay.
just kind of, what's the proximity to, like, you can't see the house or anything.
I
You
took
said you
one.
could bring some
I took
more,
one
yeah.
this evening. Yeah. Would you like to see it? Currently, or?
Yeah, I want to show it to everybody and
Might as
then
well,
get
yeah.
an idea and figure out how to deal with it. Should be pretty straightforward, I would
Yeah.
think.
So this is the one I took this evening. So my house is right here. I got probably 20 feet until that's the tree that, that I sent you. So it's relatively close to, my kids playing and
Yeah,
what have you.
yeah.
so-
Shouldn't have the
Why don't you
kids.
just walk that around, would you?
Oh, yeah, sure. That's all rotted. There was a couple trees around it that have been previously taken care of before my ownership.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if those were done, legally, I guess you can say.
Well, we sure do appreciate folks recognizing where the,
Yep.
where the limits of ownership are and where you
Right,
butt
yeah.
town property and talking with
Yes,
us about it, so.
It's right next to that yellow triangle, so it's quite obvious, so. It's probably, I don't know, maybe 36 inches behind that.
Any thoughts?
Quick question on,
Go ahead, Steve.
you plan on contracting it or doing it?
I wasn't gonna necessarily do it myself because it's not my field of expertise. However, my neighbor directly across the street has been working for Aspen Tree for over a decade, so he's well equipped with machinery and what have you to take care of it. There's nothing behind that, so I figured it could just be dropped in that hill and you know, away from my house, and should be fine. Whether I leave it there or I use it for cordwood or what have you, I don't know what.
I don't think it's gonna be good for much by the looks
If
of
it's
it.
all
Yeah,
rotten.
to be honest with you,
If it's poplar, it'll be really not any value to it. If it's all
Yeah.
rotted, it'll be all punky and,
So this is something we haven't addressed before, hasn't come before the commission, and, obviously, it's a safety concern, and,
yeah. Like that corner of my house that's my bedroom, so where it's 40 foot up, it could definitely cause some damage.
yeah.
It's
And
been quite windy, you know, within the last month, so.
I
that's
wouldn't
my
let the
fear.
kids out around there to play.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's another thing, you know, here we are, summer coming, you know, friends, family coming over, grilling and hanging out and birthday parties.
usually trees will lean into a clearing,
Mm.
depending on whether it matured while the clearing was there, or whether it matured in the midst of a full forest. So, I don't see any reason not to drop it and leave it. And if it can be, if it can be felled ideally
Right.
back onto the conservation
Sure.
land.
Yeah,
If that is, you know, a further concern to you, and the wood is of value
Yeah.
as firewood, and some people will, some people won't,
Sure.
but, you know, I don't see any reason not to use it up as cordwood.
yeah.
We're
camp wood,
we're
whatever.
not inviting people to
Sure.
harvest on
Sure.
town lands,
Yeah.
but, you know,
But I want to take the necessary steps to do it correctly and,
yeah, and the one caveat would be in felling it back into the woods.
yeah,
It wants to be down on the
Sure.
ground, not hung up,
sure.
6 feet
Yep.
up in the air.
Yeah, there's not
sort of
much
thing, so.
trees around it, small girth, so.
Go ahead.
You know, I'd suggest, and we'll eventually make a motion after discussion, that you actually give written permission from the chair, just scratch out a hand note, and we can just photocopy it to Nick, just saying exactly what's gonna get done. Liability's not our problem, you can remove that tree. And, you know, essentially that's it, so it's real clear what happened, and then we should give PLC a copy of that because of the easement.
Well, that too, and if anybody questions it while he's doing it, he can have the documentation.
Yeah,
And we can state on there that it's a one of, it's,
right,
Right.
yeah,
you know, not granting everybody in the world permission to go cut trees, but take out the dangerous tree next to the house.
Yep.
He'll have the documentation he needs, and nobody should bother anybody after that.
great.
Then we have something for the record.
Naomi, could you scratch something out that I could sign?
With a giant smile.
We're not gonna call her Smiley Bug tonight.
We're gonna try to
like
expedite
to hit me.
and move on.
Yeah, everything else in the general vicinity is in good shape. so
Do you
that's
have
the only
Nick's
one I
last
really
name
have
there on the, okay.
So can I make a motion, Andy?
Well, that is going on, absolutely.
So I'd like to make a motion that the Conservation Commission authorize Nick Agnon to remove the rotted tree that's about, you know, a couple feet off the boundary line on the town Eastman town forest property, and that the chair sign a note saying he's authorized, that, you know, he's responsible for any liability, and that he is able to hire someone or get someone to take that down that knows what they're doing, and he can keep the tree if it lands on his property. If not, just leave it.
Second that motion.
Thanks for the motion, Steve. And for the second, Mark. All right, any other thoughts on that? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's all in favor. So once we have that note, I'll sign, we'll get a copy, keep a copy, send you with the note, and then you'll be all set.
Terrific. Appreciate it.
Thank you for talking with us about it.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for asking too. That's really good.
Yeah.
Hopefully everybody else, if they have that kind of problem, asks, and just not too hard to solve it.
Cheaper that way.
All right, we will move on to the minutes, review of the minutes of February 9th, 2022. And only thing I saw, and I will be abstaining from voting on these because I wasn't here in the room, just want to renumber them so that number 1 is forestry items as opposed to appointments. And number 2 is part of forestry items, so then becomes minutes are 2. Planning is 3. Mail is 4. And continued, then becomes 5. Next meeting becomes 6. Any other thoughts on the minutes?
No.
Do we have a motion to approve minutes?
Motion.
Second.
Second?
Yeah, second.
Thank you,
Actually,
Ray.
to approve is amended.
Yep. And that's okay with you as amended, Ray?
Yes.
I'll abstain. I wasn't here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Copy of that? Oh, yeah.
All right. Having a motion seconded for the approval of the draft minutes as amended, February 9th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
You also an abstain, Bill? Okay. So we have Bill, Andy, and Mark abstaining, otherwise in favor. Naomi, on those February minutes, only change was on the numbering. So we get rid of appointments and start off with number 1, forestry items, and then just change the numbers on down through. Actually, where it says number 2, forestry items, we can take that out because it's a continuation of the section. And then it's just to change numbers on down to the bottom.
2.
Okay. Oh, yes, that was, Ray, Steve, Sherry in favor, Bill, Andy, and Mark abstaining. All right, no planning board items. We're looking now onto Department of Environmental Services mail. First item dated February 22nd is a reported alleged violation. From the Land Resources Management Program regarding some Department of Public Works activity. And this is file number 2022-00391.
So the outlet of Duck Pond is on the state road. It's on 114.
Right. Right,
Yeah, but-
has there been a response on it?
Benji talked to Jen
Okay,
on the phone. It all has to do with the beaver dam on the state road that they removed. The pond went down. The complaint was filed.
is there understanding with Jen, or need more, is there additional work to do, or are we all set with it?
I honestly can't answer that. I know Benji had a phone call with him.
Okay,
It's gonna be the state's problem from here on out, not ours. It's the state road,
Right.
but we don't want Duck Pond flooding out either. That's been the understanding.
right, because it spills over there.
Makes a
They
mess.
made a beaver dam over by the post office. But,
So-
we're gonna have to trap them or something, cause it's filled back up again, so.
Well, that's definitely
Yeah, they gotta work.
that's
between
definitely
the-
a road, under fire there, next to the bank and the
Yeah, I
post
don't know,
office.
I'd have to ask Benji, and I can let you know what the response was. I know there was a phone call, and there was a whole story as to how we got to where we got. It wasn't our, state always used to do it, until
But-
the abutter came over and stomped his feet and didn't want the state touching it anymore, so they threw their hands up. But it floods Duck Pond. So now the neighbor, one of the abutters
It-
across the street, turned us in. We knew it was gonna happen. It was mentioned at the selectmen's meeting.
So we dug it up, or the state dug it up this time?
No,
We did this time.
Okay.
they just took the beaver dam out. They didn't dig any dirt, I don't think. I think they just took the top off, the beaver,
You know
the
what
sticks.
You know what it looks like on the way up.
Yeah, I know what it looks like. So we can hire, USDA Wildlife Services to come down there and look at it and put in a beaver control.
We're not touching it again.
We can't touch it. The state's gonna do it now.
Who owns the pond's less than 10 acres though, so who owns that, where the outlet is? I can actually pull it up on the.
I don't know who owns it.
Because, you know,
Well, it'd be
there's-
in the state right away. It's not in that
No,
far, is it?
not necessarily, you need a surveyor to figure that out, but I mean, we could, just as a conservation project, cause, you know, you got a problem with the roads flooding. You've got like a seasonal timing when you really don't wanna go yanking beaver dams, cause it's bad for the turtles and amphibians and stuff. So I mean, ideally, if you could just you know, get Wildlife Services to put in like a beaver deceiver, there's a couple different ways they could do it. I mean, or ultimately, they can also trap, but let's see whose property that actually is. It's on, is that on, that might be on ours, actually. Or is it on that leftover?
I can ask Benji what the resolution was. It was a phone call. I don't know. I
Yeah,
haven't got anything back from Jen.
no, but it's a property thing, and yeah, it's NBAC, so it's none of our business. Where that actually is. So that's gotta be that commercial piece that they're selling, right? Looks like it's owned commercial.
Yeah, that front piece from
Yeah,
the subdivision they're finally building out there.
yeah, so they own that. Yep, not really our problem.
Well,
No, I mean, as far
the
as,
fix isn't our problem, but the washout is very much our problem.
yeah, but I mean, as far as like, I mean, ideally, you know, you could almost tell DOT that they ought to consider calling Wildlife Services. David Alaban is the state director. Let me get his, let me get his number here.
Anybody want to see a picture of that? I just happened to be in the neighborhood a few weeks ago and took a look.
See it every day.
Yeah, it's a very visible spot.
It's almost all back up now.
Well, yeah, I'd say it is. You know where they are now, though? You know where Tina had the little sewer? They're in there now. They got that dammed up across there, and they're flooding that back. But it's-
They want the bank flooded out, they want the
That'll
post
go-
office.
That'll go all the way back, though, to this road farther up.
For little work, they could claim a lot of territory there, so.
Mm.
That's,
We know
that's,
all about them.
yeah.
Well, they gotta live, too.
They're tasty little morsels.
Yeah?
I'll stop right there.
I think you bet.
Okay, it looks like, 603, 223, 6832, and, it's David Alaban, it's Allaban, is the state director, and can definitely get them to get down there and take care of it. I mean, somebody's gotta pay for that, but,
I can let the DOT or let Benji let DOT.
yeah. Yeah, those guys, they're really good at what they do.
But they should-
But are they as good as the critters? 'Cause
No. Critters have all the time on their
they
side.
keep monitoring, they
Well, I
keep
don't know.
trying.
The critters don't need permits.
Neither do
Yeah.
they, the wildlife
Well-
services guys.
Where was it? Just a couple weeks ago, dam let go and caught a story. Major league washout of several town roads from a beaver dam.
Oh, yeah, I
Even
saw
though-
that on the
remember
news.
where it
one night.
was, but it was
Yeah, I don't
pretty
know.
significant.
Don't remember.
And frankly, some scenarios, it could be very threatening to human life too. Because we love our rivers and our roads. Our roads do go through. So. All right, staying on the theme of roads, we've got DOT trying to keep 114 over Otter Brook in operation, and that is both emergency authorization to the New Hampshire DOT, but there's also a letter request from, so Environmental Services has authorized Transportation to do what they need to do. Transportation has then contacted the town with a letter dated March 17th, 2022, with a request for information. And their letter went to the Selectmen, Planning Board, Town Administrator, Fire Department,
Everybody.
Police Department, Public Works Director, Conservation Commission, and Historical Society. Naomi, has anybody that you know of shown an interest in responding to that?
No, I mean, we haven't, I would say not, because
Yeah.
it was just left to me to do.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the selectmen can answer. Unless you think there's some, they wanna list their priorities of wetland and stream mitigation efforts.
Yeah, that's something I don't,
'Cause they're not-
I don't think
they're
we
not
have.
looking to do the construction until 23,
Right.
because they were there and now they're moved out.
Yeah.
There was 2 or 3 state trucks down there the other day when I went through, so I don't know what they're doing. I mean,
The list of questions, does the town have a list of priority wetland and stream mitigation efforts? No. Not that I'm aware of. Are there any existing or proposed plans that might have a bearing?
No.
No. Are there any natural resources of significance in the vicinity? Yeah, we got Daniels Lake there and the river itself. It'd be nice to have continuity between the two. Are there any known wildlife corridors? Well, the river is a wildlife corridor.
yeah.
So if there's a way to keep the traffic moving and keep the river flowing and connected, that would be great. I went boating down there once. I don't remember whether the culverts have much freeboard or under typical scenario or when the
No,
pond is up.
Pretty,
Not a
tight.
lot, no.
Hey, here's the
Pretty
thing,
close
I mean,
to the
we
road.
could make all sorts of recommendations. They're gonna do what
What-
they're gonna do. So,
right.
I'm not sure that that we know of anything, so
Well, that is our property right up to that.
that's a later question, yeah, our property comes up from the south, right up to it.
Yep.
Don't know of any historical,
I don't know
Interest
if
there.
that, well, I don't know if that's an old, if that's stoned up old or something, because they do try to be careful with them if that's an old stone culvert in there.
no, that was.
I mean, I can see cement in there,
It
so I
says
think it's been,
galvanized anyway.
Rotten metal.
Yeah.
What they- I guess it's on the other one. 62, 66, so 5 feet, 5.5 foot diameter corrugated metal pipes. What else we got? There are conservation lands, Steve just mentioned on number 5. I don't think, well, off the west side of Daniels, Pennachuck has a water system. I don't think that protection area runs up to 114, but there is, I mean, that's the closest,
On the other side of that.
right, that's the closest one I know of,
Yeah, they just did a repair the other day.
yeah. Other water quality concerns? I don't know, is it worth chiming in on something like this? It's an opportunity, but I don't know that there's a whole lot of stake we have here.
Shouldn't they have an environmental consultant answer like these questions? I
Yeah.
mean,
you would
They
think.
usually do
yeah.
before they, because they're gonna probably put that out to
Who
bid.
sent it to you?
Huh?
Environmental manager.
At DOT,
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
but I mean, they should know this stuff. I mean,
Yeah, they
I'm
shouldn't
sure
be
there's
asking us
invasive
for it.
species around there, but we're not gonna go hunting it down.
I think that's one spot I've seen the loose strife. I don't think I've seen the other two there, but. My suspicion, Steve, is that they do, but somewhere along the line in the regs, it says you gotta ask these questions of the towns, so the towns also have a opportunity to weigh in as stakeholders.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is that they, assuming they're gonna have to follow state law, they should resize the whole entire structure and use an open bottom, concrete box culvert. I'm sure they're gonna have to, but that would be my main recommendation on the whole thing, to
Seems like that.
provide a wildlife, corridor, underneath it.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Yeah.
And they're gonna have to deal with the seasonal up and down on the lake level and factor that in. It'd be nice to have continuity and no drops, if you will, regardless of what the water level is.
The other thing you might wanna tell them is if they're not gonna do this till next year, they really ought to put a acoustic bat monitor out there to see if there's any, northern long-eared bats in the culvert using it.
Really, with potentially just,
I don't think that water's high down there. You
No, if the
can't-
water doesn't, I mean, the bats will get up in culverts, so,
Yeah, but I'm saying, in this spring, that water was up within this far of the road. I mean, maybe they'd come in now, but they weren't in there earlier.
they ought to watch out for beavers too. They're gonna have to deal with that there too, so. Or we're gonna have to deal with it. And frankly, that's one of the weak spots in the town for flooding in a major thoroughfare. I think in the Mother's Day, that one did get closed down for a bit.
It did.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the bats aren't active till now. They're all coming out, but,
I would almost think that's automatic, because almost every plan I look at for the jobs that we did for the state, big or small, they have to fill out all that documentation and get it approved before they do the work. I've never seen a job that they didn't have to do it on.
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of surprising, but, never seen this before.
Right. It, y'all feel it's letter response worthy?
I think the state's gonna do whatever.
The absence of the town priorities to evaluate, the department will pursue committee responsibility mitigation through the stream passage improvement program. So they're gonna do their own anyway.
Right.
Yeah, that's,
We're just looking to help them out. I think they still have to do their due diligence, I think they do. Right? This is
Correct.
to make us easy for them.
this is just an opportunity for us to dip our toe in if we want.
If
It
we
doesn't,
had
doesn't
big-
guarantee that we get any consideration, but it's,
I think if we had big concerns, they would take that into consideration when they design it.
Right.
yeah. Well, for instance,
They're gonna design it the proper way.
down Henniker on River Road, that brook that comes under the road, at its low point before it starts up the hill into Hopkinton. They've got obviously undersized culverts, so you get all sorts of rushing water coming out usually, except when it's in flood, usually from the south to the north. And that's a spot where I had to jam on the brakes years ago to avoid an otter that jumped across the road rather than going through the culvert. And I've seen dead beaver there. So clearly there's some aquatic mammals that won't, or for whatever reason, didn't navigate in the water body, came up on the road. And if somebody were to be rebuilding that, you know, believe me, I'd be sticking my, you know, head out saying, hey, can we do something better here so that we don't have, you know, this hazard for the critters? And, you know, I went up with that otter and I went looking for blood because it was that close. And I think what he released was something else. It was it was quite a scare. And I was glad it made it across and off into the marsh on the south side of the road. So I've never seen anything like that here on 114.
Well, otter?
But, you know, certainly, you know, having having the stuff that works in the water stay in the water is a good idea rather than have them up on the road, potentially. So I don't think we need a motion unless somebody wants to, but I will try to draft a one-paragraph response and let at least the environmental manager know that we like things like opened bottom spans, allowing the water bodies to communicate and the critters to move through, whether they're fully aquatic or whether they're semi-aquatic. So a lot of ducks either side there. I know a lot of people fish, and we also got some conservation land right abutting it, so why not? Other than I don't have a lot of unclaimed time, but shouldn't be anything. Steve, if you have any thoughts on some of the language on, that we ought to work into that, and you could text or email me on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I think you hit most of them. There's probably some bases.
And you
but-
mentioned the bats, why not? What was the species that you mentioned?
Well, the northern long ear is federal. So they're probably gonna need a probably 404 permit for this.
Uh-huh.
And then the northern long ear, but, you know, I mean, Kim Tuttle's gonna tell them what they want them to do or not do anyhow from Fish and Game, so.
Yep. All right. Sound okay to everybody?
Yep.
All right, moving on. Forestry permit by notification. I don't think it merits any discussion unless you folks see otherwise. With that, let's, already took care of that letter from DOT. Moving down the agenda, let's go ahead and knock out our annual meeting, our elections. I'll just preface it that, seeing as we didn't meet in March, we did have very substantial support on our warrant articles back from town meeting, and that is terrific. In fact, I think the levels are probably a little bit higher than we've typically seen in some years past, so. A lot of ways, last year was a tough year for us, but a very good one, and I think our efforts, by and large, resonate with our fellow townspeople. So some good support there from the town meeting, the town vote. I think our articles are right up near the top on most vote getters, so let's keep it up. I'll just say I'm willing to keep serving as the chair. I don't feel like I need or must be the chair. I'd be glad to take some other roles, but I will accept if that is the will of the commission. I appreciate immensely the support and the good work that everybody does here. And with Steve as vice chair, and with Mike, you know, waiting in the wings in a sense, but also, you know, contributing greatly. And hey, we can nominate him even if he's not here to accept. I'd be glad to see him continue to serve as secretary. Anybody have any thoughts on the bylaws? Just bring it up. I'm not eager to jump into them, but we need to bring it up annually to make sure that it is brought up. Any thoughts, Steve?
No, I mean, if you're all set, I'll just make a motion to kind of move the slate, same as it is, unless anybody wants to do something different.
I'll second that motion.
Thanks, Mark. All right, so we have motion to continue, myself as chair, Steve as vice chair, Mike as secretary. Duly seconded. Any other thoughts? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. All in favor. Steve, you want to roll into the FSAs, or we got two other things that I threw on the list also?
We had one other minor thing too, but yeah, let's just knock the FSAs out.
Yep.
All right, so I had, I sent a few emails up, we didn't really hear back, but, so Naomi, on the FSAs, Jeremy's got a couple of them written to like span more than a year, and I don't know if we just gotta remember to encumber that, if it does, or, I was trying to get Beth here, and we didn't have that meeting, I never really heard back from her.
So Naomi, can we do a multi-year contract?
You're not supposed to tie the hands of your next year.
It's a one-year appropriation is the issue, I think. That's what I was trying to,
Yeah, but our year is calendar year,
exactly,
so December 31st is the end of your year,
right.
even though you don't get your money till March.
Which one did that? So, the boundary maintenance is this year.
So it sounds like, yes, we can encumber, and we have on occasion, but we should not
We have
contract.
encumbered, but you can't do it until the end of the year,
Right, right,
This one's correct.
to see what's left.
yeah.
And somebody has to remember that.
All right, so the boundary maintenance one, they had that going until 2023. So we just switch that to 2022, and then if the project doesn't get completed, then we encumber it.
Yeah, the first 3 of them are till, 4 of them we scheduled for 23.
Yeah, I told them I thought that was gonna be a problem.
Yeah, you can do until 22, and then you can encumber.
I think that's what we
You
do,
can't sign anything into the future without town meeting.
unless we were using conservation, which we're not.
So he's gonna have to fix them to be all 22s, and then at the end of the year, we'll just worry about encumbering.
So I think Andy could sign these with a change to 22, and if Meadowson chooses to accept, great. If they don't, then we could re-engage.
Is that because Jeremy thinks these projects will go into 23s? That's why he's doing that, so he's,
Yeah.
so what we have to do is do it, it's one long project, but it has to be renewed every year.
Every year.
Yeah, he said they were actually planning their work out that far, and I told him I thought that was gonna be a problem, but we never got a straight answer on it. I think we haven't been paying close enough attention to these things, frankly. When they come out of forestry, when they come out of conservation, it doesn't matter. So, because,
Kinda
Right,
hard
out
to
of forestry,
manage.
we've got an allowance.
Yeah, it's hard to manage a big project like that year by year, though.
Yeah.
because it's Not that type
And you'd
of
have to go
project.
back to the voters
they're not
to
that big.
change
these
that
projects.
probably.
These projects aren't really that big,
I
so,
think it's just technicality when the auditors won't probably do, because you can't really tie, you don't even know if you got money for next year.
you're right, yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? You don't know how much timber money you're gonna have put in there, because you're gonna almost deplete it at 30,000 this year.
Right,
You're getting low,
yeah.
Right,
so.
true.
I mean, you can authorize the chair to sign them once they're fixed, I just don't know that you're gonna fix them and sign them.
Mhm.
Well, it's not uncommon to, change
It's not
change
uncommon,
something,
but usually
put
you-
initials on it, but you're saying because he already signed it.
He's already signed it, so it's, I think it's uncommon to go and change somebody's document without him being here to initial. So if you authorize Andy to sign them, all Jeremy's gonna do is send them back, Andy can sign them.
Can we get, he may pick up, he picked up earlier, is that, to ask if that's okay with them, and,
Yeah, I mean, if he'll pick up, I mean,
He might.
that's usually not very common, but
yeah, he was,
we're used to doing that around here, I guess.
I know.
Hello, you've reached Jeremy Turner.
Yeah.
Well,
so here's
well,
another-
Can we motion and approve him and he can,
You can talk to him.
So I think we could motion for,
Jeremy could sign them, send them, and with authorization, I could
yes,
sign them
yeah.
and return them.
We could do that. So 2 of them are fine. Okay, so the first one is timber sand improvement at Toby Hill. That's 2022-007FF, not to exceed $2,400. Timber stand improvement on sections of stand 2 and 3. And that's basically kind of going in and it's a pre-commercial thinning where you girdle trees, that kind of thing with a chainsaw. If we were private landowners, there would be like federal money matches for this kind of thing, but we're not, so we can't get that. But do you guys want to take them one at a time, or you just want to run through these two and prove them and then talk about the other ones? Okay. All right, then we've got the hourly, and this is just for anything this year. They charge per hour, so like the pollinator project, tree farm, enrollment compliance, the meetings, boundary matters, just kind of the general stuff that's not described in our thing. It's $75 an hour, and that would just be for this year. So those are the two that have correct dates that expire the end of December 2022. So I would motion that we authorize the chair to sign those. And then so the hourly doesn't actually commit anything out of, for a dollar amount. I don't know if we need to put an up to amount on that, just for sake of kind of tracking some funds, or how do you, I'm not sure on that one. But the other one's $2,400, just for the sake of tracking out of the annual expenditure.
You can only work as much as you got money for.
Yeah,
You
right.
can only work as much as you got money for, you can't.
Can't walk over.
No, not on the hourly, because sometimes we'll tell them, do something, but charge the conservation account.
Then why would you put it up to then?
I don't think we need to then, yeah, so we could just sign that one.
So-
12/31.
But any exercising of this agreement, we authorize at the time,
The work.
at the required.
You're just agreeing to spend that much per hour.
Pay
So we have a
$75 an
second
hour.
motion, using the hourly, we're gonna authorize $1,500 to do something.
Yeah, I mean, we're already,
And that, at that point, we're gonna capture and have to account for those funds.
yeah, we don't always, because like, we haven't typically done that for, when it comes to meetings and that sort of thing.
Right.
There hasn't been a separate motion for that. Maybe we should just say, motion up to like,
2,500 or something.
yeah, just for meetings and miscellaneous things. We don't, so let's do the motion to approve these two, then we'll do another motion afterwards to, I think I can word this right. So make a motion to approve the hourly forestry services agreement and to budget $2,500 for meeting attendance and miscellaneous town forest management related issues, and to approve the forestry services agreement 2022-007FF for Toby Hill Town Forest Timber Stand Improvement, not to exceed $2,400.
Second?
Any other thoughts on these two? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor.
Okay,
Motion or a friendly motion to have the chair authorized to sign.
yeah, so amend that motion to have the chair authorized to sign.
Amended,
Second?
approved. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
All in favor, okay.
Okay, so the other ones, 2022-002FF is forest management plans for Chevy Hill and Bartlett Brook. Those are updates to existing forest management plans, and the Bartlett Brook is $2,794, and the Chevy is $3,454. So he didn't put a grand total on there. Use a calculator when you need it. 2,794. So the grand total on that one is 6248. It's for, 2022. Okay, then we've got 2022004FF. This is for the Barden lot, which is 82 acres, a comprehensive forest stewardship plan, and the cost on that is $2,500. That includes forest inventory and resource mapping. So that'd be a digital and a hard copy. Okay, and then we've got 2022003FF. And that's boundary maintenance for all of the town forests. That's a project that we've
That's
had
a
going.
continuation.
Yeah, it's painting the last 10 miles out of 30 or so miles that they've been working on, and that's $6,000 plus materials. You have to get them though. In the future, maybe just estimate the materials and add it in there. So I guess probably have to authorize 6,500 on that one. To cover materials.
It's almost $1,000 a mile when they're marking. Is that what it comes to, basically? $800 a mile?
Yeah, something like that, pretty close.
Yeah,
Okay,
this was 6,000 for 10 miles, so 600 per mile.
yeah, there you go. About 60, well,
Plus
plus
the- plus the
materials,
six plus-
yeah,
plus.
actually. I think that could be highly, if you think about the complexity, I think it depends on the boundary line and how much of a, where it is and what it
Miles,
looks
some
like.
lines, actually.
A mile
Yeah,
and
we're-
bog.
We're not in the Midwest here. Our lines are all over the place.
Yeah,
So,
That's not a bad number, really. A mile is a long way.
yeah, it is.
yeah, yeah. So Forestry Service Agreement 2022-006FF. So this one is, got a massive typo in it. All right, so just for the record, there's first line that's supposed to be with us, not with Spiniff. We're the client. So area of work area A, number 1, Eastman Conservation Land, northern unit involving stands 2, 3, 4, and 5, plus or minus 100 acres. Forestry services provided, work A, timber harvest, tree marking and timber sale, timber marking compliance, supervision, administration, accounting. Forestry to be performed will be in accordance with the applicable practices in the approved and adopted 2021 Forest Management Plan. Fees listed above are as followed. Tree marking, $1 per ton of pulpwood or chips, $5 for 1,000 board feet, plus the cost of any materials. Supervision and administration, 20% of the stumpage. So Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to maybe, kind of wag that if there's. Let's see here. If there were 250, actually, how many? 100 acres, probably, let's just say 250,000 feet. So it's probably pretty safe if we put 1,500 against that. And I'd imagine, how many tons? We took 20 tons an acre times 100, 2,000.
So on these harvests, we pay for the startup, the setup work,
Yeah,
and then the actual harvest engagement, we don't pay directly, but once the contractor's on site, the administrating, the oversight, the direction is paid for as a percentage of the realized sales.
yeah, the revenue, right, yep. So just kind of, a guess at how much is coming out of there. Let's say we put 3,500 against the tree marking portion of this. There's no, obviously there's no cost on the actual harvest and administration. And we need to get them to fix the first paragraph just to reflect that the contract is with the town of Weare. And then we need to change the date on this. I'd like to just run one question by Naomi. So Naomi, if this were broken into two different FSAs, one for the marking, which is what we're really paying for, and then one for the administration of the sale, which is revenue generating, can that span years because there's no appropriation associated with it?
When you're gonna put out the bid, you're gonna have to explain that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I'm saying if you know, like,
We got things that we put out the bid that don't get done in a year. There's projects that you get put out to bid that don't necessarily get done by 12/31. Is that what you're asking?
no, I'm saying on a revenue generating project,
We don't do many of those.
yeah, we're the only ones that do them, right? So can you span fiscal years? Because there's no appropriation associated with it. I would think you could, right?
I think.
Yeah, so I mean, this could.
I think we have, and I think there's no reason why we shouldn't.
No, but I'm just saying you could break this into two different FSAs. Ideally, telling them we want the marking done this year.
Yeah.
And,
Right, and then you've got,
right. So either way, or you could, there's like no need to encumber the thing if the marking were done. That's the paying portion of it.
my concern is we got a number of different moving pieces on this one, that we shouldn't approve it now, we should get the redraft and then take it up in that next meeting.
Okay, easy enough.
Because these ones are essentially ready to go, except for changing 2023 to 2022.
Well, this is too, depending on what you want to do. You just need to fix the,
Well, we're potentially restructuring and dividing it into two FSAs. And
yeah, we could, yeah. Okay.
so let's see that one again before we sign on the dotted line.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to, let me see what the grand total here is. Oh, 62. So it's 15,248. And then we just authorized another, 25 and that other one, so we're well within the warrant article. Okay, so,
Which was 30, correct?
yeah, I think it
Yeah.
was either 25 or 30, but either way, we're under it.
Mhm.
So, make a motion to authorize the chair to sign the forestry service agreements 2022-002, 003, and 004 for a grand total of 15,248 from the town forest account. Upon agreement with Meadowson to change the effective date to December 31st, 2022.
You want a second?
Yeah, please.
Thank you, Sherry. All right. Steve made motion, Sherry seconded. We clear on the language? Any questions, Naomi, on the language of
No,
the motion?
Steve, where'd you get 15,248? You get 6163 in the first one.
Yep.
You get 2,500 in the next one.
Yep.
And you get 6,500 in the next one. 15,163. That's right.
Oh, they hit something wrong.
25 and 65 is 9,
Yeah,
and then 6163 is
6248. I must have.
Well, how do you get 6163 when you're adding 2794 plus 3454?
You had 9,000 plus 6163 is.
Wait a minute, it's 15,248.
Naomi, I'm just, the total for 2022-002,
Is 6163.
It is?
That-
Oh, did I mess that up?
then we need to
Wait a
correct
minute.
something there. 'Cause
Which one? 002,
that's two pieces.
it's 2794 plus 3454. That's
I'm-
6248.
I think that's where the discrepancy is, Naomi.
Where do you see?
Oh, yeah. No. He didn't round up on his 25%, that's right.
Oh,
2794, that's all right.
okay, my number's
My
okay.
mistake, yeah.
Okay, cool. I want to get it right.
All right, so we're at a agreed total of 15,248 for those, or these three, subject to Steve's motion and Sherry's second. Any further thoughts on those? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Sherry second.
Yep. All in favor. Okay. Question on one of the last two items. When there's a construction project ongoing in town, site work's being done, land's being disturbed, trees removed, what have you, roots, stumps, soil being exposed, rains, soil moves, called silt at that point, runs with the water, gets into water bodies potentially. My question for the commission is, what role do we play in all this? Clearly, from a science ecology sort of standpoint, running mud into the water bodies is not typically desirable. Doesn't happen a lot around here, or even under all but the most extreme, we do pretty good at holding on to our soil, unlike some other areas, parts of the world, parts of the country. We had a case, or an instance come to my attention, and I asked the code enforcement officer to look into it. But I don't even know, do we have town rules on
There should be.
on sediment
What happens
during
is,
construction.
if your site is less than 1 acre of disturbance, you don't need a SWEP plan. The SWEP plan needs to be designed by an environmental scientist who will dictate how the erosion control is monitored and installed. And it's up to the contractor to monitor it and report it. You have to fill a report because it goes to the DES. DES can show up at any time to make sure that you're following the SWEP plan. But if your site is under 1 acre of disturbance, there are no,
No.
there's no oversight.
Right.
So it falls down to basically town level at that point, where the building inspector would have to be knowledgeable enough to recognize the problems,
Right.
and he should have the authority to enforce the proper controls, because it's a federal rule that you control any sedimentation going into any water. So although you don't need a SWEP plan if you're under 1 acre, you still have to follow the federal rules of siltation, which means that you need to put up silt fence, sock, whatever. So when that issue came up, I didn't want to be involved at all.
Right.
Because that would be construed as conflict of interest, and I don't want to have any, I don't want to be anywhere near it. I can advise, but I don't want to approach.
Where was this?
This is down at the bottom of Pond View Road,
Oh, yeah.
where all
yeah,
the mailboxes
Yeah,
are,
yeah.
on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, in the town, I pull this up, there's actually a requirement for the,
The reason I bring this up is I kind of got a response that suggested, well, I could look in that, I will look into it next week. When I was trying to say there's rain coming, there's evidence that this lot has thrown off some sediment into the waterway. There's more rain coming, couldn't we look into it sooner? And the response I got was, this is curious, nobody's ever asked me this, I don't view it as something I can, look into it next week.
Well, we run into this same problem with customers we have,
Yeah,
where they wait until they're far, far beyond fixing anything before they call us, and we have to go in there and try to, but the problem is, they're not under that regulation of a SWEP plan.
all right,
The
what,
towns don't really want to do anything about it, because they don't know enough about it.
break that down though, what does it mean, the plan?
Sweat
The
plan?
SWEP plan, it's,
sediment and erosion.
yeah, it's, I forget what it is.
Sediment,
'cause I-
water.
All right, what are the,
Stormwater protection plan,
You
something
probably
like
can just Google it.
yeah,
Yeah. So basically, if you're gonna
Wow.
disturb more than 1 acre of land, you need to have that. It's a requirement, federal requirement. It has to be under an oversight of an authorized person. So if you're a company, you have to authorize a person to maintain those controls and have all the power to stop the job, if necessary. People like the big companies we work for appoint a person. That person can stop the job. It might make everybody mad, but that's his job, to make sure that the sedimentation controls are in place. Every time you get a half an inch or more of rainfall, it has to be reported and documented. You have to fix your erosion controls. That's 1 acre or over. Now, 1 acre and under is where we have all the problems. This is where the smaller contractors don't pay attention to anything.
and does the state typically say, look, we got no standing here, it's under 1 acre?
Well, they
Or-
have
or do-
standing.
Or do they
The state's
sometimes say, all right, I can look at that, and then I will tell you, oh, all right, I looked at it, but it looks small, so it's on you.
Well,
It's still a
the
violation.
state's response generally is they don't have enough manpower to look at all the little infractions that people report. So things get overlooked.
Yeah.
And it's up to the contractors, and they're getting better. The builder contractors, especially around the lakes, didn't used to do anything. And then all of a sudden, the towns like Sunapee, Wolfboro, Moltenboro, all of these places we do a lot of work for, the towns are now getting very much involved in the oversight of the erosion control, and they will not grant a building permit until all the erosion control is in, and the towns actually come and monitor it closely. But most towns don't. So places like E.J. Prescott, for some, if you know about them, they do a lot of seminars on stormwater practices. And they invite engineers, they invite town officials. So if you want to go to one of those seminars, they will teach you all of what needs to be done and how it should be done. They follow the stormwater the practice manuals. And, I mean, we get involved quite a bit in that sort of thing too, and we're doing a really good job over the past 5 years of educating smaller contractors. They're getting a lot better at using silt sock and silt fence properly, and we teach them what should be used where. And now we have a new method where we put a silt fence in untrenched along a wet area, and the 1 foot flat that sticks out, we put a sock on top of that flat. So rather than trying to dig, wetlands, all the roots grow at the surface. So you're gonna put in a silt fence, right? You're literally destroying the whole environment trying to protect it. You make this big mud box. So now we just go in, put the silt fence like that. The sock is heavy enough to hold everything down, nothing gets under it, but it doesn't disturb any soil, and it's double protection. The sock filters brown water, the silt fence catches silt, okay? Silt fence is not good at brown water. It stops the silt, but the brown water runs through it.
Sure.
Sock is not good at stopping silt. It's not tall enough. It gets overcome pretty quickly. But if you can put the sock in with the silt fence, you're better off.
Yeah.
Now, when we do this thing along the wetlands, we actually put the sock in front of the silt fence on the flat. The sock will become, it'll over. But
Yeah.
ideally, we like to put the sock behind the silt fence, but we don't use that method when we're putting it on top of the flat. So it works better than just plain silt fence or just plain sock. DES has liked it, and recently we started seeing some engineered plans mention that.
Oh,
Well, I know where they got the idea from. We don't get credit because we don't have that little paper that says we are an engineer.
Okay.
We just,
Bill?
Andy, are you, I guess what I would think, the town probably doesn't have any regulations, or planning doesn't have any regs that say you've got to do your plan for the runoff. And I don't know what we could do much more than maybe send a note to the selectmen and planning that it seems like it's, possibly getting overlooked.
Yeah.
Or,
If we're the last line of defense, we're pretty porous.
well, we have
You
no
know,
authority.
so-
But, that's a good idea. We need to make the selectmen or whoever, planning board,
boy.
understand that the federal regulations are encroaching on these. So it's a demand that needs to be met. We don't have the authority to stop anybody from doing anything, but we can advise the proper people to maybe put those rules into effect. It doesn't need much. I mean,
Right.
look at all what we have to go through to get a building permit. You gotta make sure everything is just right and up to code and the lumber is certified. Well, one next step now, because of the environmental rules, should be, one of those requirements should be, what are you gonna do for erosion controls if you're near a running stream or open water? It's very simple what you do. Unfortunately, I can't go there and tell them what to do because I'm on the board.
Naomi, do we have full-time code enforcement at this point? No. Do we have a regular schedule, or is it a sort of an as-needed arrangement?
We have 25 hours a week for the building inspector and 20 hours a week for zoning enforcement officer. That's all we got.
Are those one and the same as they, no? Okay.
Andy, I can't put my finger on it, but there is, so in one of the, I don't know if it was the zoning and the site plan review, there actually is not the zoning, what's this document called? It's hard to fiddle through this thing on my phone. So that's subdivision regulations. The other one was, might have been on the zoning or the site plan review regulation, but the,
Buy one of them things a couple of weeks ago, and I hate it with a passion. I have to because I can't get a flip phone anymore.
so anyhow, one of them says for any driveway that's pitched towards the road, that a sedimentation control plan is required unless waived by the building inspector. So there is actually a town ordinance on.
Connected to driveways.
For the driveway that's
specifically.
pitched to the road, yeah, I mean, so that, you know, in that case, that's where all the sediment was actually getting
Right.
by,
Yep.
was right at that point. You know, the interesting thing, Ray, about what you said is true, and, the one confusing point in the federal law, though, was when there's a subdivision, that cumulative area could actually be different owners, but it's in that subdivision, and you kind of bust that area thing. I forget the whole deal on that, but it wasn't like super straightforward.
Yeah, it should be, technically, when you're doing a subdivision, you're putting in a subdivision road, you generally disturb more than an acre, because your road is 50 feet wide, the right-of-way. Doesn't take long to get to an acre.
Yeah.
So, those people should have a SWEP. But the problem is when the builders start buying lots
Yeah.
off the subdivision, if they're disturbing less than an acre, then they're not required to have that regulation.
They are, though, in the cumulative. That's what, yeah, that's what it was
It's hard,
saying.
it's a gray area,
No, it's there. I mean, it's whether or not someone wants to enforce it.
yeah.
But, because we were talking about this for that, what's that subdivision down there down the southern part of the town on 114, when you're coming north on your right? Remember years ago talking about like no one was using any erosion control on there whatsoever? We got the.
Eleanor
Yeah,
Way?
Yeah.
I forget.
Yeah.
What do we call that one?
Yeah,
That
that's
brick
right,
car,
that's
yeah.
what we call it, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I remember saying that, because I drove down there to look at something, and nobody was using any erosion control at all.
I must say, in the last few years, most people have gotten much, much better. There are people that didn't used to bother with it at all, that are now using us pretty regularly to do even residential lots. So as time goes on, more and more people, it's almost like OSHA. Remember when OSHA started enforcing hard hats and all of the stuff, and nobody
It's
really
auto-
did
it's
it? and-
automatic now.
And then all of a sudden, everybody starts, oh, you better have a hard hat or else.
Safety
It's
glasses.
the same with this. They're gonna take classes, they're gonna be more aware. Other contractors will say, hey, you should be doing that or you're gonna get in trouble.
Uh,
And
On the,
eventually,
on the classes part, I'll just put this out because I think there are only two of us here who were on board back when we did this, but back when we had a full-time code enforcement officer, we actually, as a commission, using conservation funds, sent him to wetlands class. He actually picked up a wetlands certification. Not something I think we're necessarily gonna do with the situation we're in now, but it's something we can do, and it might make sense if we get to the point where we have staff that we're trying to hold or build or resources in town. You know, maybe that sort of training is something that we could not only encourage, but we could also back up with some cash to bring somebody to a point where he or she's more knowledgeable about those things.
that would be good. Because really, talking to most people, it's more of a lack of knowledge or awareness. It's not that anybody wants to make a mess of the environment. They're just not aware that they need to do all these controls, and they don't even know where to buy them or hire anybody to do them.
Yeah, here's the thing though, with folks not knowing, I don't know that I wanna jump in and start being a point of contact with or a face saying, hey, you gotta do this, that, or other thing, or we're suggesting, or, hey, could this maybe be viewed as something you can fix up?
It's a
You know,
fine line,
Yeah,
you know? So, being on the board, I have to be very careful what I tell people, because I don't want it to be construed that I'm looking for more work, and I'm not. But,
Yeah.
you know,
all right, I think we've got a better understanding of this, better understanding of our limitations and what role we can do, and, hopefully, all right, sounds like there's been some improvements on this lot.
Just for the record, though, I mean, I did find it here, it's actually in the zoning. An erosion and sediment control plan is required for all portions of every driveway that drains towards the roadway. So that was required for that lot. I don't know if we're really doing this or not, or if anybody even knows about this, because I know we
What's,
never do.
what's the reference on that, Chief?
It's on the driveway section of the zoning on page, it's on our zoning ordinance, page 86, geometric standards, it's under that paragraph. An erosion and sedimentation control plan is required for all portions of every driveway that drains towards the roadway. Driveways over 100 feet with a slope towards the road must address the additional runoff with either remediation or off-site improvements. The plan is to be prepared by a professional engineer or a certified professional in erosion and sedimentation control. The code enforcement officer may waive this requirement if conditions warrant. So if that wasn't warranted,
Yeah.
it's in violation of the town zoning.
I wonder when they enacted that.
It's been there.
There's 3
So one
driveways
last-
right next to my house, that every time it rains, all the silt ends up in the middle of River Road.
One last question for you, Naomi. What typically, I've got a pretty good idea what a building inspector does, but what does a zoning enforcement person do for the town?
Right now, we've been fielding all the complaints.
Okay,
I mean, we've got complaints from outhouses to trash to cutting the buffers between properties.
so if I, as a chair of the commission, have awareness of something that I would like some help, is it best for me to contact you and see if, or email you and say, Naomi, can you help me figure out who in our employee as a town contract holder?
He's here
can-
Wednesdays and Fridays. That's all he's here.
Well, that's good to know, but my question is, should I contact a building inspector? Should I contact a zoning enforcement person, or should I contact you
You
to?
already started dialogue with the building inspector, right? You said you forwarded to him.
I did, at least
That's not,
I did, and I think you sent me something that he sent to you, so I knew that he received it. But I'm trying to figure out how to bring something up most beneficially for the town.
You can make him aware of it. I mean, I'm not sure that he's read the whole ordinance, I'm just saying.
Because does either one of these two
Does it say
people
about it?
hear something from the town Conservation Commission chair and say, yeah, I should look into that, or does it just kind of sit there at the bottom of the priority list and, there's,
You're welcome to send him, everybody sends him stuff.
yeah. Okay,
How it gets, I mean, he's
Is
only
that-
here 25 hours a week.
right.
That's Romeo, right?
Romeo's the building inspector. Tony's here 20 hours a week.
Who's authorized to give someone a cease and desist? Both the zoning and the building, or just the building?
It's been issued by just the building.
'Cause I would think erosion issues are not a zoning issue.
Right.
It's a building department
It's
issue.
written in the zoning
Yeah.
ordinance, so.
yeah.
Right, but it has to be enforced, I don't know. It's a construction issue.
No, but if you violate zoning, then you're, you still get a cease and desist for violating zoning till it gets straightened out.
Well, it just needs to be handled across the board, the same for everybody. You know what I mean? Just because we drive by a construction site and it bothers somebody, we should tell everybody, about all of the driveways.
Yeah, I mean, that's a zoning ordinance, we should be, people, with all the change in staff and stuff, I never even knew about that.
It's been in there, you voted on it at town meeting. There was an article that went in there and whatever.
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, we never talked about that here,
All right,
It really doesn't belong there.
yeah, it's kind of a
It's
weird
really
spot,
not a zoning issue, it's the driveway permit's not a zoning issue, but
Be planning.
yeah. Was that when they did the whole big driveway thing about, it's probably 10, 15 years ago, I think George Millette was,
no.
It's
it was
newer?
after George, I don't remember what year it was.
uh,
Because it's Article 36, so it was well after the cell towers and after the wind farms and after, they keep adding on to the end.
oh, that's how that works, they just go on the
Yeah,
end,
on the
yeah,
article.
yeah.
all right, I think we've pounded that one to death. Last thing I have, thoughts from the commission on somebody getting in touch with us saying, hey, is there any chance I could do target practice firearms practice on town conservation land.
I think.
Clearly, somebody did not show up to make a specific request of us.
My opinion on that is that you'd never give anyone permission for anything like that, because you're kind of taking the liability.
Hmm.
With all the land that I have available.
I don't know, is there liability on that?
Well, think
I mean, we're
about
not
it, if you
collecting,
got
we're not collecting a fee, we're not,
If you're gonna go
Are you-
leverage.
public land, you tell them they can go shoot, and there's somebody out there walking and they shoot them.
You said I could.
You told me I could, so now the town's gonna get sued.
I mean, I'm all for the hunting, I'm all for all that, but
the hunting's covered under other
Yeah,
well-established
um,
laws.
there's places you can go spend a few bucks and do it all the weekend, all day long. And I'd pay that, and I don't need to.
Yeah, it's,
And I think giving people, you're gonna have to give them a written permission?
That sounds like a lot of liability. If something happens with the laws the way they are, they can come back to the town and say, well, look, they told us we could do this. Whoever gets shot would sue the town, obviously.
If they're
because
alive.
they're supposed to be able to walk on the land without any danger.
Right.
It's probably something we could beat around all day, I guess.
I'm
if
not
you-
looking to.
No, I mean,
I just, I don't want to answer, I'm not,
just.
I am not the commission, I want
I can tell you
to,
that there isn't a person alive that has legal permission to run an ATV on, I'm gonna use Mount William property. And a quick little story is, there was a girl from, I think it was Hudson, hit a ditch, actually flipped over frontwards, broke her neck, got flown in by helicopter, and then was suing Mount William. Because she claimed she had permission, well, she didn't. So,
I appreciate you
it,
sharing the perspective on that, Bill.
I'm not against target practicing or whatnot, but I would never give anybody permission on town property to do that.
So, quick kind of, I did some research, and I think there's kind of a quirk in New Hampshire law here, actually, that I think we need to run by Laura and then consider a warrant article. Just looking at, it looks like Londonderry had some kind of a problem. I think New Hampshire with public lands, we may be a state where you can go shoot wherever you want. It's not the permission factor involved, and certainly there's people with bad judgment, but I think if we want to essentially prohibit target practicing, I think it's going to need to be a warrant article.
Warrant
Well,
article.
that's a different scenario.
Yeah,
No,
I
I
don't think
think-
we're not prohibiting it, we're just not giving permission.
We're not giving permission.
And you're not stopping them from
But
doing
it-
it.
Well, I think you do want to prohibit it, honestly.
Well, that, I mean,
except
that's, I get you, Steve, I'm just saying that's a different question.
But if they ask you, is it allowed?
No.
It is. You can't lie. I mean, that's the
It's
problem,
town-owned property, though.
right? That's what I'm saying. I think it's allowed by New Hampshire law.
But target practicing and hunting is two different things.
I know, but look at Londonderry. If you read what they were doing with Musquash, they had to have a warrant article, and they cut it down to only allowing target practice during hunting season. There's something really quirky going on with the New Hampshire law. It's like, the National Forest, look at them, that's federal land, but you can target
Well, you know
practice.
what, they didn't show up tonight, so it couldn't have been that important.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but maybe they're just gonna do it, maybe they figured that out, that we're not gonna do anything about it. I'm just saying, if we don't wanna have people set up,
Well, then
cause like,
put it-
when they set up little target ranges, people tend to bring their trash, shoot it up, like propane tanks and bottles and cans, and leave it, so.
All the lead.
Yeah, I mean, bigger, it would be interesting to know, like, what authority would we have to make any sort of land use rules? Just a question to Laura, what we would have, do they have to be
So
approved?
you're stewards, but the selectmen own it, right?
The town owns
Can
it.
even the selectmen make rules is a question. I'm not sure about that, just looking at what happened in Londonderry, for whatever reason.
I just don't know why they couldn't, they're the owner of the property, just like somebody coming to your house and setting up. You
Yeah.
own the property.
I mean, ultimately, we all own
We
it.
own the property.
Yeah, we
So
own
the
it.
selectmen own the property. And we sell
They
it.
manage it.
Yeah.
You guys manage it?
No, the selectmen
Yeah.
manage it.
Oh.
But
town
everybody owns, each selectman owns a little
Yeah.
piece, we each own a little piece.
I'm just saying, I don't know. I'd like to ask her.
That's all I got, folks.
I got a quick one.
Yeah.
We never acted on the, similar to our previous discussion, we had, email complaint about, TMS diesel, and apparently, you know, that was a while ago, we haven't, kind of finalized that, it was in the last minutes, but anyhow, I didn't bring his email with me, but the manager that handles like all the wetlands inspectors said the Conservation Commission should just email him directly, no need to do the full land use complaint form with the details. So it was, you know, an email went to us that said TMS diesel filled in the wetland, cut all around. You can see it, because it was on their plan when they did the actual development. It's that little corner there, right, when you know, so I can give you the guy's email address, Andy, if we wanna, I think that's the simplest thing to do, just say, here's, you know, where the complaint was. There's a plat on file that shows the wetland, and,
He's filled it in with a bunch of chips over there
Yeah.
now, pretty much.
I want to boomerang that one, see if
I can do it, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
if you feel like a DES is a problem, if you act, you know, but,
there's screwy things that have happened, and
Yeah.
I don't want to go there.
no, I can,
So-
I mean, I'm happy, you know, I
Because,
can do
because
it.
what inevitably happens, you do that, and then there's, you know, return communication, and
Yeah.
I need to keep some very, rigid separation there. So,
That's fine.
yeah, probably others did, I did note the pool is back again, so it's a spring thing that shows up, even with the fill, water collects in there, and it's hard not to, have a spot that does that, and years, it's gonna have all the attributes of a wetland, so.
I mean, I guess the two things we really need to do is, you know, it's brought to our attention, I think it was an email, I don't know if it was to us or the conservation account, but anyhow, you know, there's two different violations going on. There's the town, buffer ordinance got violated, and the, you know, just dredge and fill rules got violated. Or at least we think they did. It's up to DES whether or not they. So if the commission, you know, if they want me to make that contact, I can do it. If you want to do anything, we can do that too, or.
I would appreciate you going ahead and doing that, Steve, and
You want to put that in, I mean, do you want to vote on that, or want to just do it? Is that something it's up to you guys?
I don't think we need a motion.
Okay, cool, yeah, we'll just take care of it.
Anybody feel otherwise? I'll just put that in there for the record. Thank you. Anything else?
I just noticed I had to go down and get up some blue bags we're doing litter pickup here, the 23rd, rain date the 30th. And when I went down through to pick them up at the highway department the other day, they're cutting in there on Felch property. There's a lot of, looks like small hemlock coming out, or is it just above?
It's above Felch.
Just above?
It's
I
on
thought it
private,
was
yeah.
right there on the line, so.
Yeah, it is right along now.
Looks like Todd was in there with the cut to length operation, I think, high tech probably.
I don't know, they're cutting pretty small stuff. I didn't know for
Yeah,
sure.
I did, yeah, it looked like pole, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw that
looked like a
too.
big fence post, really. It looked like hemlock, just, I mean, I couldn't tell, I was driving, so I really just glanced, but
Yeah, I had noted that also, and I think they were in there last year or the year before too. It's a fairly, there've been a number of times they've been in there.
excuse me.
Anything else? We have that final motion at 8:54.
Second.
Yeah, I didn't make that motion, I just
Motion.
noted the time. All right, we got Steve, we got Sherry, we got adjournment at 8:54.